thanks to our chair, Professor Vibhuti Patel, followed by enriching sessions by our speakers, Dr. Arindra, as well as Professor Shruti Tambe. And now I'm very much happy to welcome you to our second day on Globalizing Sociology, Regional Realities and Global Connections. We extend our gratitude to our principal for supporting us in this, to the IQAC coordinator, and the program subcommittee head, Ms. Tanaz Asha, for her support, as well as to the RUSA and its coordinators for all their support in making sure that this conference takes place. Before we begin, I would like to briefly introduce our department. Our head, Dr. Anagha Tandulkar, Dr. Chitra Adkar, Ms. Anjali Dandekar, and myself, Ms. Sukanya Menon. It is indeed a privilege to have this online session today, consisting of intellectuals, students, teachers, and thinkers who have joined in from various parts of the country to listen, think, and ponder on the very many aspects of this discipline. To ensure that we have a smooth proceeding, we request everyone except the speakers to please keep their microphones switched off. We will be having a Q&A session at the end of it. So we request that you keep your questions to the end of the session and to use the chat box in case you have any questions. We will also be sharing a feedback link at the end of the session, and we request that you please fill in the same as well. Without further ado, we will now move on to the session. We will have opening remarks by the chair, Professor Shashi Mishra, for a few minutes, followed by presentations by Professor Kamala, Ganesh, and Professor Soumyajit, Patra. We will then go back to the chairperson for her closing remarks, and then we will have the Q&A, followed by the vote of thanks. I would now like to introduce today's resource persons, starting with our chair, Dr. Shashi Mishra. Professor Mishra is the head of department at RJ College, Mumbai. Her specialization is in the field of urban studies and informal sector. She has been a member of the Board of Studies and the coordinator for Sociology Board of Studies at Mumbai University. Dr. Mishra is actively engaged in teaching and in various field projects and has guided several MPhil and PhD students from SNDT and Mumbai University, and is an enthusiastic researcher who has carried out several UGC and ICSSR projects. Thank you, Dr. Mishra, for agreeing to chair this session, and we are very, very happy to welcome you on board. Our speaker for today, one of our speakers today, is Professor Kamala Ganesh, who was formerly professor and head of sociology at Mumbai University. She has also taught at St. Xavier's College and SNDT Women's University, and her field of research includes gender, caste, kinship, women's history, archiving for women, cultural identity, and the Indian diaspora. And she has done several ethnographic work in Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, as well as in Netherlands, Germany, and Canada, and is currently working on syncretic traditions in the performing arts in India. She has been a senior research fellow of the CSSR, residence at Shiv Nadar University, Professor M.N. Srinivas Chair, Professor at the Institute of Social and Economic Change, ISEC, in Bangalore, and was elected has had elected positions in the Asiatic Society of Mumbai, Indian Sociological Society, Indian Association of Women's Studies, as well as the Commission on Women in the International Union for Anthropological and Ethnological Sciences. Her book, Boundary Walls, Caste and Women in Tamil Community, which was published in 1993, won the Silver Medal of the Asiatic Society of Bombay, and the book 0 Point Bombay, in and around Horniman Circle, co-edited by her, was listed by The Guardian London as among the 10 best book sets in Mumbai. It is an honor for have her join us in for today's session, and on behalf of the department, once again, thank you, Professor Kamala Ganesh, for joining us. Our second speaker for today is Dr. Soumyajit Patra, a professor and head, Department of Sociology, SKB University, West Bengal. At present, he is the librarian in charge at the Central Library of SKBU and is the convener of RC27, Sociology of Care, of Indian Sociological Society. He is a former coordinator of the Center for South Asian Studies, SKB University, and was awarded the Research Fellowship by the Ministry of Welfare, Tribal Development Division, Government of India, and joined as Cultural Research Institute, Calcutta, as a research fellow. He has been actively involved in research on various aspects of tribal culture and has had a number of publications and writings in international as well as national journals for the same. He is a co-PI of a mega research project on tribal development in eastern India, West Bengal, Odisha, and Jharkhand, which is sponsored by the DSTC division, Government of India. Indeed, it is a pleasure to welcome Dr. Patra as well for today's session. Um, as mentioned, I request the chairperson, Dr. Mishra, to please start with a few opening remarks. Welcome everyone for the second day's session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to esteemed guests. Extend a warm welcome to all of you. It is my pleasure to chair this session on globalizing sociology, regional realities, and global connection. Talking about sociology, which is very close to our heart, stands a global sociology we shared with lots of possibilities. Transnational process brings opportunities for growth. Exchange and cooperation also raises deep cultural loss and environmental damages. I warmly congratulate Principal Dr. Anagha Tendulkar, IQAC team of Sophia College, members of Sociology Department for hosting this online conference on globalizing sociology, regional realities, and global connection, and for extending to me for the honor of participation. I also welcome all speakers, Professor Kamala Ganeshan, Professor Patra, distinguished dignitaries, members from all over India, research scholars, and students. Warm welcome to all of you. Sociology as a field of study has long been concerned with understanding the complexities of social relationship, institution, structure. In today's world, societies are interconnected in unprecedented ways through migration, technology, global market, and flow of ideas. Development is happening all over the world. Niels Melzer tried to understand process of development through changes taking place in society, changes from animal and human power in agriculture to mechanical power in industries, change from subsistence farming to cash crops, change from more rural population to more urban population, change from subsistence farming, change from simple technology to complex technology. According to Smelser, these changes will be different for different societies. It means these changes is the starting point for one society but may be different from the other society. Certain factors will play an important role in the process of becoming modern. Traditional structure of society, significant events such as war, natural calamities, natural differences, economic, political, social, geographical factors also contributes for the development process. The influence of this factor will determine when and how societies will become modern. Sociology is the study of society, relationship, culture, institution, and change. Talking to regional realities, when we study family, marriage, or caste in India, these realities are different from the Western world. Regional realities are about the ground level experiences of common men in India. We talk about caste, rural urban migration, gender inequality, farmers' suicide. To understand this, if sociology takes theories from the West, it overlooks this local context. Therefore, globalizing sociology requires to respect and study these regional realities. Thus, theories to understand the regional realities are different. MNS M.N. Srinivas' theory of Sanskritization on caste will make us to understand local context to study caste in India. European thinkers like Karl Marx, Durkheim, ideas were very important to understand sociology and society. But understanding realities of other region, globalizing sociology is important to understand. This also have learned from Asia, Africa, Latin America, and indigenous communities. In many communities of rural and urban India, still persist joint family. Three generations live together under one roof. It is a large group of people belonging to three, four generations who generally live under the same roof, share the common kitchen, and related to each other in a definite ways called as extended family, more common in traditional societies of India. That changes how we think about caring for children and elderly. In India, these realities are very different from the Western world. It is about recognizing that every society has something to contribute to sociological knowledge. Globalization is one of the most important forces shaping our world today. It refers to the global interconnectedness of people, economy, trade, culture, and societies across national boundaries. We are rooted in local culture but connected to global culture. Talking about global connection, no society exists in isolation. Globalization connects all. We face increasingly interdependence and societies, trade, culture, and even problems like climate change and health. Globalization has linked people across India. Social media like connects young people to all over the world. So young people in India connects to all over the world. In some cases, globalization has actually contributed to the presentation of local culture by providing greater access to global platform. For cultural expression, social media allows marginalized culture to share their practices with a global audience, increasing awareness and appreciation of local tradition and connecting with the world. Economic benefits through globalization has also came at a significant cost to the environment, leads to climate change, impacts same as all over the world. Local issues and global forces are tied together. We cannot study one without the other. Health issues at one corner of the world quickly affects the other. Sociology must connect global with local while fostering interdependence. Globalization also makes region more vulnerable to global economic crisis. Globalization also comes with challenges. We continue to grapple with inequalities and regional imbalances. First, land displacement is one of the major issues in India. Displacement can be voluntary or forced. For farmers, it is not just loss of land, but also loss of an entire way of life. Wallenstein theory provides critical perspective on globalization by highlighting how interconnectedness of nation within a capitalist world economics creates and sustain global inequalities. The core exploits the periphery. Second, advancement in technology, communication, and trade creates chances for global collaboration, economic growth, and cultural exchange. They also tend to benefit urban areas and skilled workers disproportionately leaving rural and less skilled population marginalized. This often results in dual economy, where certain segments of society flourish while others struggle. benefits are not equally distributed. Third, Western universities and journals still dominates the research area. Much of sociology and research work is published in English, so local knowledge in regional language often do not reach the global audience. On the other hand, Anthony Giddens and Ulrich Beck reflexive modernity extends that which is useful for explaining how globalization changes traditional institution, highlights the dynamic and adaptive nature of contemporary societies where knowledge and practices are constantly revised in response to new challenges and opportunities. Giddens said modern society is very different from the past because people no longer simply follow tradition. Instead, we constantly reflect, questions, and adjust ourselves, our lifestyles, with asking question which is based on knowledge and risk. In traditional societies, life paths were fixed. In modern societies, choices are open, but that freedom also lead to risk and uncertainty. Globalization leads to cultural exchange. Greater exposure to diverse culture can lead to new form of cultural expression, broader range of consumer choices, and more cosmopolitan look. I would like to conclude by saying globalization, globalizing sociology is about dialogue, exchange, mutual respect between different regions of the world. It asks us to see sociology as truly global discipline, one that learns from every society. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mishra. I think that's a fantastic way in which we can start off the second day of the session. With your permission, may I now invite our first speaker, Dr. Kamala Ganesh. Uh, Ma'am,
Thank
Yes.
you, all. Yes, please.
thank you, ma'am.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can I start?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Ma'am, sorry to disturb you and intervene here. Dr.
Yeah.
Manisha Rao is just coming in, so with your
Okay.
permission, we will also get her in. She was very keen.
Yes, I'll wait for a
to
few
get in
seconds.
as well.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
right.
Yes.
Thank you. And as ma'am joins in,
I've joined. Yes. Thank you so much.
thank
Yeah.
you so
Hello,
much for
Professor.
joining in. Our pleasure to welcome you the second day as well. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Hello, Professor Kamla.
Hi. Hello. Hello, Manisha. Lovely to have you also here. Great. Yeah. So I must start with a confession that I am now, undergoing some kind of a very bad throat issue, which has been continuing for the last 3 weeks. And suddenly my voice is apt to break and not able to continue. So when that happens, we have very kindly, there is somebody else who's going to read if and when necessary. Is that right? I think that is Chitra.
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Chitra Adkar is
Yeah,
here.
yeah. So please don't get phased if I suddenly my voice, goes off, vanishes. But it's a temporary thing. I hope. I hope. So Dr. Shashi Mishra, chairperson of
Yes,
today's session.
madam. Yeah, of course, yes. Thank you very much.
Dr. Shashi Mishra, Dr. Patra, Dr. Anagha Tendulkar, Professor Manisha Rao, the team of the sociology team of Sophia College, and the so many other students and teachers and other researchers who are there listening and participating in this session. It's a good evening, and it's a pleasure and honor to be a resource person for this conference being organized by Sophia College. I have great respect for Sophia College. Its focus on creating a personal learning environment for students and its engagement with human rights and gender justice issues. as it marches towards its centenary in 2040. My best wishes for its continued contribution to women's education. Am I audible?
Yes, madam.
And
Yes,
the speed is okay?
perfect, ma'am.
Perfect.
All right, all right. So I have had some occasions of interacting with faculty and students from Sophia College. I had the opportunity of meeting historian Sister Anila Varghese several times at the Asiatic Society and at other places. I marveled at her stellar contribution to our understanding of Vijayanagar Empire. I have also interacted with Sister Ananda Amrit Mahal and admired her commitment to and work on women, feminism, and gender justice. While I was teaching at the University Department of Sociology, we had many students from Sophia College, and I think they continue to come to our department. And several of our own alumni have taught at Sophia College. Your current HOD, Sociology, and Principal, Dr. Anagha Tendulkar, used to be one of our very favorite students. So this session feels like a gathering of friends and colleagues. The title of the conference, which is scheduled for November 11th, is itself very broad in scope. It covers approximately the last 4 decades. Globalization in the 21st century, at least at the idea level, entails the free movement of goods, services, capital, knowledge, technology, and people across national borders on a very, very large scale and high intensity, leading to an increasingly interconnected and interdependent world. There has been much analysis on the gains and the limits and the tragedies of globalization. But the Rubicon has been crossed. How has sociology, with all the theories and approaches and methods and tools at its command, engaged with this unprecedented scenario? Yesterday and today, I think, are kind of preparatory, wide ranging discussions leading to the conference which comes in November. Dr. Anagha Tendulkar requested me to talk on the Department of Sociology of Mumbai University, which has been my karma bhumi or my corner of the world, where I was both student and faculty. My department is 106 years old. Apart from being the oldest in the country, it was also established by the British government with its usual complex mix of reasons and motives, including bringing Western style higher education to the natives. There are insightful writings by Manorama Savur, D.N. Dhanagre, A.R. Momin, and others on this historical moment and its consequences. The first head was the eminent British town planner and sociologist Sir Patrick Geddes. Bombay was already urbs prima in Indies, the most westernized city in India. So, what developed here was a metropolitan sociology, part of the 19th and early 20th century globalization, mediated by Enlightenment liberalism and a colonial empire with its knowledge making purposes and procedures. Following Geddes' rather short tenure, Professor Ghurye took over as head and helmed the department for 35 years. He is one of the founders of sociology in India. He pioneered the approach integrating sociology with social and cultural anthropology. He established the Indian Sociological Society and started its flagship journal, Sociological Bulletin, known for its excellent scholarship. With his nationalist leanings and his voluminous and variegated output, his long tenure brought in a strong anti colonial approach to sociology, which also reflected a more general trend in the country at that time. The long standing debate in sociology about indigenizing was, in a sense, a reaction to the one sided and biased collection and dissemination of knowledge from the West to India within the colonial framework. How this movement played out in our department over the last century and how it has helped or hindered the contemporary wave of globalizing sociology is what I want to talk about. The story of the department is that of a metropolitan and national sociology. I start with the idea of sociology as a science that developed in Europe and how scientific models were applied to non European societies. All of you are familiar with this proposition. I then briefly take up the response to this cultural assault in the form of a powerful debate on indigenization. I further discuss the Department of Sociology and the course of its growth. How did its eclecticism mediate the face off between indigenous and universalistic approaches and enabled it to engage with the challenge of globalizing? As we all know, the origin of sociology, anthropology, and of other social sciences as disciplines lies in 17th and 18th century Europe in the Enlightenment, premised on using reason and the scientific method as the tool for understanding human culture and society. It tried to formulate findings, universal laws of society, predictable, replicable, applicable everywhere in the world, like all the other social sciences. It was initially conceived of as a discipline with global scope and application. The debate on social sciences vis a vis natural sciences and humanities is a long standing one. And without getting into details, one can say that both sociology and social anthropology have revised their earlier positions long back and accepted that social reality is not ultimately comprehensible through scientific methods alone. But that is another story, a story of how location, reflexivity, intersectionality, and intersubjectivity have started being taken seriously in sociological theory and methodology. The mainstream position still continues largely intact. Social science disciplines are still accepted as knowledge systems that have global scope and application, even if some qualifications have been put in place. But this kind of globalization of the past was unidirectional. The way early sociology and anthropology developed in the West under conditions of colonialism, their concepts, theories, and models became the touchstone, the measure for all other societies. But as time was to prove, other societies were not comprehensible entirely within Eurocentric frameworks. One example of this, which would be familiar to many students and teachers here, is the debate on the Indian joint family system, which raged in the 1950s and 60s in Indian sociology and sociology of India. The basic sociological question at that time was, is the joint family disintegrating? Is it moving towards the nuclear family model? The Indological model, meant as a de jure model or a juridical model of the extended family, was assumed by colonial ethnographers to be the system that prevailed in India on the ground. The India specific term joint family was coined by Sir Henry Maine, who was a 19th century historian and comparative jurist from Britain. This legal Dharmashastric concept was then contrasted with the changes that were happening in the wake of industrialization, urbanization, and migration. This trend had already set in the West a century earlier. The nuclear family model was glorified by Parsonian structure functionalism as the most efficient domestic organization that would help capitalism and modernity to take root. Such was the power of the Indological model of what had existed and what it became, that sociologists of the family, veteran sociologists like A.M. Shah, I.P. Desai, M.S. Gore, and many others, spent a couple of decades decoding what was actually happening on the ground in India. Households were the residential unit, family was an emotion, and kinship was the blueprint for access to material and symbolic resources. Households were changing form, but not in a linear way, only from joint to nuclear. There were many types of households emerging. Some of these had existed for a long time. They operated within a kinship ideology, what one might loosely call family sentiment. The Indian reality was far more complex than conveyed by the joint to nuclear formula. Concepts evolved in the West just did not fit. There is no word in Indian languages for extended or joint family. We tend to use the word avibhajya kutumba now, but that is not the traditional name. It was only either parivar or kutumba or the equivalent in other languages. As one anthropologist from Kenya put it, a colleague, she said, when we Africans say family, we assume it includes members of different generations and kinship status. For us, family means extended family. This is the norm. Why not term the nuclear family as the shrunken or fractured family, she said. I have summarized an elaborate debate here just to illustrate the point that the globalization of concepts and theories in the colonial context was a one-way transmission. Models rarely fit the reality. Sociology's twin, anthropology, developed different methods. Ethnographic fieldwork by European scholars on small cultures in far-flung regions. Often these were colonies. Based on intensive and immersive fieldwork, this approach was different from sociology in that it focused on cultures and knowledge systems of the non-West. It was a kind of a globalizing exercise, though not intentionally so. But again, the tools and models were derived from the discipline of anthropology, a product of the Enlightenment, and dedicated to objectivity and scientific methods of the natural sciences. Just one sec. Early anthropology has been critiqued for its biases and baggage, veiled under the notion of scientific objectivity. The hierarchies of relationship between observer and observed, the demands of the colonial context, and so on, have raised issues about the nature of knowledge production in the conventional ethnographic setting. In the case of anthropology, it meant that the scholar was of European descent and those who studied were from other cultures, with all the inequalities and hierarchies that were built into the system. This then is the context in which indigenization was discussed as a major issue by scholars in India ever since the inception of sociology. The pernicious impact of colonial knowledge-making processes and the imperative to correct the imbalance have been at the crux of this debate, whose proclivities are actually a counter to the impulse for globalizing sociology that this conference is talking about. But as we shall see, the debate in India was a complex and nuanced one. For the most part, not rejecting the European ancestry wholesale, but striving for authenticity and balance. G.S. Ghurye, D.P. Mukherjee, A.K. Saran, M.N. Srinivas, T.K. Uman, Andre Bete, A.R. Desai, and many other scholars engaged with the debate explicitly or through their work, taking very different positions. A series of articles was published for many years in the issues of the journal Contributions to Indian Sociology under the title For a Sociology of India, beginning with Imtiaz Ahmad's 1972 essay. This set of articles embody the complex ruminations on the indigenizing issue, indigenization issue. One recurring argument is that knowledge produced as sociology needs to be liberated from colonial era ideas. Nobody quarrels with that. Intellectuals in India, which has a long history of indigenous knowledge systems, should not slavishly draw from imported theories that are not equipped to capture Indian social reality with its diversities and specificities. Eurocentric views of progress and development could not perceive that Indian cultural reality had a capacity for adjusting and synthesizing from external influences. There was also criticism that the colonial emphasis on Indological sources led to a Brahmanical view of Indian society, neglecting or misinterpreting the reality of the marginalized. Indigenization also entailed a stress on empowering regional languages, regional voices, and allowing more people to participate in academic discourse, thus making it more democratic. The argument for indigenization was based on an assumption of Indian uniqueness, at times bordering on exceptionalism, citing specificities of caste, kinship, religion, etc. But there were also counter voices that sounded a caution. The risk of becoming isolationist, parochial, and pandering to false nationalism. The dangers of overemphasizing Indological sources and creating a Hindu sociology rather than Indian sociology. The perils of being co opted by political forces that promote a narrow nativist agenda. The need for systematic comparative sociology as a way of balancing particularities of Indian society with the universalistic nature of scientific inquiry. The need to empower sociology in regional languages. Summarizing, one could say that the indigenization debate has been a very robust one, with plural voices being heard. Some of this has contributed, I think, to preparing sociology in India and getting it ready to meet the challenges of the present epoch of globalization, that is the 21st century. So I would answer this question: has sociology been prepared to meet the globalization challenge? I will first answer it with reference to the Bombay School of Sociology. By virtue of being the oldest center of teaching and research in sociology, and due to Ghurye's long association with it, it has an important place in the early discussions of indigenization, nationalism, and modernity. I say Bombay School of Sociology as a widely used term of convenience, even though some have argued that it was not really a school because it did not develop any single theoretical approach or field of specialization. More on that later. Ghurye helmed the department and taught generations of students who in turn went on to helm departments all over the country. His influence on the department and sociology is considerable in the country. He challenged racial theories about caste proposed by colonial anthropologists like Risley, demonstrating a commitment to the relevance and capacity of Indian social sciences. Ghurye was a nationalist and relied on Indological sources to buttress his inclination towards seeing unity of Indian culture, even though he was alive to its diversities. This has been critiqued as his major flaw, championing a book view of Indian society, not inclusive of its margins and minorities. Ghurye has been both lauded and critiqued. I'm not going into it here. My point here is just how the Department of Sociology developed under his leadership, but for the most part did not espouse his ideological approach. Part of the reason was Gurye himself. He encouraged his students to do field work, although he himself did not. Though an Indologist and nationalist, he encouraged other theoretical positions among his students. For example, M.N. Srinivas did his well known field work in Coorg under Gurye's supervision, and Srinivas was a steadfast critic of Gurye's book view. A.R. Desai, who espoused a Marxist sociological perspective on Indian society, did his PhD under Gurye. He has gone on record to say that his guide did not interfere with his political and ideological interpretations. When I first went to the department in the early 1970s, looking to do a master's in sociology, I found that there was no direct heir to Gurye's ideological approach. Some, like Manorama Savur, Vasanti Raman, Apu Nair, and Indra Munshi, were influenced by Professor Desai. Others were students of Dhirendra Narayan, whose approach was a modified structure functionalism. Professor J.V. Ferreira specialized in anthropology, later joined by his student, Professor A.R. Momin, and they had active links with the Institute of Indian Culture, earlier known as the Anthropos Institute, set up by the Austrian anthropologist Father Stephen Fuchs. The special quality of the department, and I would also say the strength of the department, was in fact, its eclecticism with no single dominant approach. In the 1980s, I was a PhD student under Professor Ferreira. I joined the faculty in 1994 and continued till I retired in 2014. In all this time, there were several changes happening. First, a growing focus on marginalized sections of society. Through new faculty recruitments, growth of PhD topics, introduction of new courses, and redrawing of existing syllabi. Specifically, there was a remarkable growth of interest in scholarship on Dalit, tribal, and women's studies. Second was the integration of social and cultural anthropology with sociology. This approach had been pioneered by Gurye, who said that in the Indian context, a strict separation between the two was not appropriate. And this had been adopted by most other departments in the country. In our own department, however, anthropology was not given prominence after Gurye left. The sociologists were politely skeptical of the anthropologists. This changed from the 1990s onwards, reflecting a recognition of the self-critical churning within anthropology in the West, the importance of the ethnographic method, and also of the growing importance of interdisciplinarity in the social sciences. Another noteworthy change has been the discounting of a neutral academic stance and a validation of taking sides in research. This, of course, is part of a much larger development in sociology of combining activism and scholarship, action research, and the recent emergence of the influential field of public sociology. So, in sum, I'm coming to my conclusion, last bit. Sociology in India, and in particular the Bombay School with its metropolitan profile, has had links with Euro-American sociological scholarship, mainly as consumer of theories, ideas, textbooks, and scholarships, a kind of a one-way or unidirectional globalization. The current phase of globalization is the outcome of a completely new set of socio-political and technological developments. For sociology, it ought to mean a departure from the colonial and neo-colonial phases, with bringing in mutual exchange and collaborations with other locations, disciplines, and fields. This is, however, an ongoing process, as yet not achieved completely or to our satisfaction. To discuss just a few examples here, The extent to which interdisciplinarity is absorbed is a sign of globalizing sociology. It indicates both sociology's openness and its reach and influence on other disciplines and fields. We are still grappling with how to achieve true interdisciplinarity. In practice, it is more like multidisciplinarity. One interesting development is the accommodation of emerging fields like studies of women, gender, transgender, Dalit, tribal communities, environment, informal labor, tourism, health and medicine, and others, some old and some newly emerging areas into sociology by our famous technique of creating subspecializations, sociology of environment, sociology of gender, and so on. How far this leads to genuine interdisciplinarity is a question mark. I think it has, but to what extent? In recent decades, the conventional equation of scholars from the West researching on the cultures and societies of the non West has been somewhat overturned by a few instances of what can be called reverse research, which is a true mark of the desirable type of globalization. I myself was part of a team of Indian and Dutch anthropologists who did ethnographic fieldwork in the Netherlands to evaluate the impact of its retracting welfare state on vulnerable categories of the population, like the elderly, the single women, children of divorced parents, and so on. Maybe I can talk more about it in the discussion, but I was most amused, but also not amused to find that most of our informants assumed that we Indian anthropologists had come to study the Dutch welfare system, to take it back to India and apply it to our society. And they were a little nonplussed when we said we had meant it for Dutch policy. Anyway, it was an exhilarating experience and brought home to me the politics of location. It is happening now, but not as much as it should be. The realization of the chimera of neutral research has meant greater freedom and flexibility towards partnership and collaboration across regions and fields. There are promising networks of cooperation and solidarity of scholars and activists from the global south, Pan Asia, the establishment of South Asian University in Delhi, for example, is an experiment worth watching. The growth of immigration from India to various countries has provided a fertile ground for links with diasporic scholars with their influence and reach and networks in their adopted countries. So in this particular on this particular point, I think there has been some very interesting developments. Where do our sociology graduates and postgraduates go? New opportunities have opened up post globalization in the corporate sector, entertainment industry, media, policy work, NGOs, all spheres in which globalization is much more palpable and in which we sociologists have to learn to navigate and negotiate a complicated journey while keeping our critical sociological faculties intact. We can say that our metropolitan students and scholars from places like Delhi and Mumbai, with their English advantage, are well positioned to use these opportunities. But their linkages with the regional and local are still weak, as we saw Dr. Shashi Mishra say today, and yesterday the two papers also referred to this. With regard to pedagogy, the crucial availability of sociological literature, the crucial the crucial role of availability of adequate sociological literature in regional languages, both original and in translation, has been recognized and taken seriously, but outcomes are still patchy. Curricula do continue to draw a great deal from the West, classic thinkers as well as the more contemporary ones. and maybe just a few from the global south and from India. It is mainly in the courses on India, sociology of Indian society, that we find Indian sociologists being referred to. I will end on a note of cautious optimism. The glass is half full, but there is still hope. Globalization hovers all around us like a many armed octopus, threatening to overpower us unless we engage with it critically and productively, not turn our faces away from it. Sociology can show the way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Kamala Ganesh. I think that has been a very, very insightful and enriching session in so many different ways. Without further ado, though, I would like to welcome Professor Patra. Um, just a word to those who have questions. We will have a Q&A session at the end of this, so you can put it in the chat box if there's anything, and the chairperson will take it after the comments. Dr. Patra, over to you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, chairperson. It is really my pleasure to share my views on these issues with you. I'm particularly grateful to Professor Tendulkar, Anga madam, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, madam. And all the teams of Sophia College have worked hard to make this session successful one, enriching one. When I was looking at the theme of this webinar, I was trying to understand the problematics inherent in the topic. Look, we wake up in the morning, we go to the market, local bazaar, or go to the field for some agricultural activities, come back, have our breakfast, go to the office, interact with our colleagues. Sometimes we raise our voice against injustices, against certain issues, come back to our houses and give time to our family members, teach our students, possibly, and take our dinner, go to the bed. The thing is, this is our everyday life. Thing is, whether we want to localize the Western meta-narratives or whether we try to globalize our local experiences, thing is, we try to understand the nuances, intricacies inherent in these everyday or sometimes non-everyday. This is all about what we want. My humble submission that we should treat sociology itself as a language. I will take some cues from the writings of Professor T. for my submission that if we can treat sociology not as a discipline as such, but as a language that can translate these realities for our understanding, for our interest, for our study. This is a kind of thing that I have in mind, and I will try to elaborate my argument. Once, one of my students, postgraduate students in the class, asked me a very interesting question. I was teaching Sanskritization. So one student asked me, sir, this is an important process, important concept given by universe. Yes, I said. Then that student raised the question, sir, do the students of Oxford University or Toronto University read these concepts with these equal emphasis? You are emphasizing that this is an important. I fumbled and I said, possibly no. Then he said, why we are taught capitalism, we are taught Western modernity, we are taught the issues of democracy. So why they are not given courses on these issues? I said, here lies the fallacy. The thing we deal with, the thing we are talking about are westernization of Indian sociology. Today, we are trying to globalize our own discipline, and for that, I would suggest that we should treat sociology language. That language can illustrate the realities and reach out the reach out to the experiences of our everyday life. Why sociology has been westernized here? You all know there is a historical concept. On 22nd November 1969, Professor M.N. Srinivas delivered his presidential lecture for All India Sociological Society Conference. In that lecture, he mentioned two things that is very, very pertinent in this context. One is he said that the parents of sociology are not directly as such industrial revolution or French revolution as we teach. He said interestingly that definitely these two are very important in emergence of sociology, but more important, he said the parents of sociology are collective miseries and unreason. This is very important. And for these two, definitely, these collective miseries and unreason were created by French Revolution. And in the next paragraph, he said that. But the collective miseries and unreason were two important forces for which the thinkers of Europe, they tried to, they created this discipline we call sociology, and they said it a science of society. Critical theorists, they have raised a very, very strong voice against this kind of, scienticism. Madam already have said this. They are saying that the science is the dirtiest word in the dictionary. This is very interesting. Science is the dirtiest because it tries to hegemonize every forms of knowledge with their Western, paradigms, with their Western framework. So, sociology from its beginning, and it was originated in the Western Europe, you all know, and it tried to become a science of society. And with this kind of scienticism, it tried to maintain objectivity, tried to maintain generalization. It went for reliability and authenticity. This is, and all these have taken place in the name of sociology. The project was sociology, and early sociology, they tried to make a science of. There are many critical theorists, many sociologists itself, they today believe that this project has miserably failed to understand the realities. Even there is a growing, dissent from among the social theories that a poet, that a novelist, that a film director often better describe or able to describe the realities, the emotions inherent in, for example, issues like poverty, issues like discriminations, issues like nationalism, better way than the sociologists. The hindrances of the sociologists, social scientists are these kind of demand of objectivities, demand of generalizations, demand of science. So this kind of, striving for women has written that it is like chasing the wild goose. So we have chased after objectivity, and we wanted to make a very, very strong science for society. The answer of these kind of fallacies was tried to, rather, Tikuman tried to answer these. And he was asking for particularizing objectivity, right? Professor Umen is saying that the subject matter of sociology is a intricate dynamics between matter, life, culture. So it is not like we never talk about globalizing physics. We never talk about globalizing biology or mathematics. We have to talk about our own subject. We are in a dilemma whether sociologists should look at the local experience with the help of meta-narratives, or sociologists should look at their own experiences from their own categories, own methodologies. So this dilemma is absent in case of other natural sciences. And our pioneer founding fathers, they were influenced by the one, on the one way they wanted to make a science of society, on the other one they were totally influenced by the natural science. So you all know the first name of sociology was social physics. Anyway, this overconfidence over natural sciences and uh, have been found till the heart of our own discipline. This is the history of the origin of sociology in Europe, all. But in India, sociology has been transplanted by the British, and the causes of the origin in these two localities are different. So I will tell you an important work uh, by Edward Shills. It was published in 1961. The title of the book is Intellectual Between Tradition and Modernity, the Indian Situation. In this book, Edward Shills pointed out one important aspect of this issue. He said that power itself is charismatic. Power itself radiates its inherent charisma. And he said, West is powerful. So we started thinking that Western sociologists are better sociologists. Western categories are better categories. Western theories are better theories to understand reality. So this kind of idea, West is in the same way. We think the Western people are more rational, West is rational, East is irrational. In the same way, many of us think that Western sociologies there is a hierarchy of knowledge in sociology. Ramakrishna Mukherjee once lamented, he wrote an article in Sociological Bulletin, and he lamented that this can be a possible reason for which Indian sociologists have not been able to develop strong theoretical traditions in sociology. He lamented, Ramakrishna Mukherjee. However, the thing is, when we interact with people, we follow certain normative structure. Similarly, sociology shared certain normative basis. And these normative values, sometimes it is called plurality of values for sociology, is democracy, is secularism, is equality, individual rights. Indian sociology also shares these normative bases with the Western sociology. অর্থাৎ Indian sociologists also try to understand caste system, family system, or Indian religion, Indian village life from the same paradigms, from the same normative frameworks. Is secularism, is democracy, that is equality, or that is uh, individual rights and its importance. So Indian sociology started these things, but soon, as Sunibas has pointed out, that the driving force behind sociological understanding, sociological researches are collective miseries and reason. Indian sociologists from 1960s onwards started looking at development. And there has been a paradigm shift in Indian sociology from culture to development. And with these, you all know that for all practical reasons, by society, sociologist Bowman has written a lot on these issues. By society, sociologists mean, for all practical reasons, nation state. So when we talk about Indian society, Bowman has written on this, we mean Indian nation state. And these Indian nation state are becomes right become an entity of pride in the minds of the Indian sociologists also. With these changes, Indian sociologists have started talking about development from 1960s, 65, and these paradigm shifts has led Indian sociologists to think about their own indigenous culture, own indigenous methods. And we started about talking about indigenization of Indian sociology. Some have argued that it is not about indigenization of Indian sociology, it is rather Indianization of Indian sociology. So the long back, I'm talking about 1920s, one philosopher, K.C. Bhattacharya, Bengal philosopher, talked about Swaraj in ideas. So this Swaraj in ideas theme came in Indian sociology with their own understanding of Indian culture, Indian tradition, and their detachments. You all know that the colonial experiences appear differently in different parts of the world, and South Asian experiences of colonialism was different in the sense that we had a clear cultural demarcation between the colonizer and the colonized. The cultural differences, women has written a lot on these issues. The South Asian experiences of the colonized and the colonizers were totally different from the cultural point of view. One thing should be pointed out here that in all practical senses, we mean by we use the term society to mean the nation state. And you will be surprised that not only India as a nation state were prioritized. The culture, the tradition, the civilizational aspects of Indian society were prioritized. And by 1975, almost all universities in our country had a course on Indian society. It had a huge impact on the orientation of Indian sociologists towards their own culture. And you all know that during these 1970s post-colonial critics became very strong particularly after the publication of the book by Edward Said. And these kind of post-colonial uh, attitude, I can say, was found in the writings of Indian sociologists, and they started thinking of their own categories. They started thinking of their own methods to understand their own realities. Madam has said a right thing, that no one supports that we should look to our own realities through the eyes of the Western thinkers. And they have done a lot of distortions when they translated our realities into through their lenses. But the issue is unresolved. Whether we will uh, we will translate, we will analyze our own institutions like family, like caste, like village life through the lenses of the Europe? No, we will not do that. But we should we should not be academically untouchable. The methodologies, the categories, the theories must be judged in terms of its efficacy. And whether it is capitalism or it is democracy or it is, other things, we should employ these categories, these theories with the help of our own understanding of own realities. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Patra. I think that has been a very, very insightful session into looking at things with regard to our orientation as well as how we're understanding it. May I please invite Dr. Shashi Mishra, our chairperson, once again. If there are any questions, I think we can have a couple of minutes, ma'am, with your permission. We can take
Yes.
questions right now.
Is there any question?
I think to the participants, if there's something, they can put it in the chat box. But I mean, I think it's everyone's just going to take a minute based on whatever that we've listened to so far. Once again, to the attendees that are there, please feel free to add your questions. It could be a general question or it could be towards one particular speaker in the chat box. And with the permission of the chairperson, I think we can then take it forward.
Yes, yes. Please take it.
With chair's permission, it could even be a reaction or
Yeah.
an opinion. It didn't always be a question, and everything. Any sort of give and take is welcome, please. Yes, Dr. Kamala Ganesh, please go ahead.
Somebody,
Ma'am, I'm sorry, I think you're on mute. Kamala, ma'am, I think you're on mute.
wait. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. If someone wants to ask a question rather than put it in the chat box, is that possible? Or
Absolutely,
you
absolutely.
could say that either you ask or you put it in
Yes.
the chat box,
Yes,
right?
ma'am. So
Okay.
they could either ask or, of course, they could unmute themselves. And I think we are happy to take that discussion forward. Or, like ma'am mentioned, it can be a give and take of any kind. I think that's the whole point of having this conference this way. Asmi, I think, has.
Okay.
Yes. I
May
think
I also say that the person who's talking will quickly introduce herself and then give a reaction. Thank you, Asmi. Please go ahead.
yes. Hello, I am Asmi Fondekar. I'm a student of Sophia College. Uh, this question is majorly addressed to Patra sir, but anyone can feel free to answer it. Obviously, I wanted to ask, as students, you talked about how we uh, have to see things from our own realities also. So as someone in an academic field studying, not studying, maybe writing about things that maybe we are not fully acquainted with or we haven't fully experienced. How do we bring back empathy into academics, and how do we bring back empathy in with whatever we are addressing?
Thank you very much. The thing is, what I have suggested is to please try to understand that sociology has its own spirit that I have termed as language. Sociology don't look at the subject matter per se, right? So your own experience, for example, you are studying a village affair in your own village. So sociology has a standard methodology. If you think that methodology is not sufficient, these methodologies were particularly developed in some other parts of the world, right? If it is participant observation, if it is for focus group discussion. So you use a standard methodology and try to analyze those experiences. Don't think whether it is a local affair. Try to understand the essence of this because sociology has developed some concepts also. Right? Try to understand what institutions are involved in it. Try to understand what processes are involved in it. Try to understand what kind of relationships are involved in it, or what kind of relationships are existing in that kind of. Once Dipankar Gupta said that the language of sociology should be like this. It should not treat the institutions, the relationships as things. We should treat it as a process, and we should situate the entire event within the framework of social relationships. So if we try to, try to reach out to the realities as far as possible, we have to look at these issues, the social institutions, the relationship patterns, the changing aspects, and what women has said, that don't go for the generalizing patterns. Try to understand the peculiar nature and how these peculiarities can be translated into a kind of science. Women has said that examine the event twice or thrice within a short period of time. And if you come to the same conclusion, it is, women says, this is intrasubjectivity. So try to examine the same event twice or thrice within a same period of what? Hello?
Sorry, sir, that must be, we have muted the thing.
So in this,
Sir, you are muted.
Sir, we are so sorry. Maybe request you to unmute yourself, please. Sorry.
sorry.
Yeah.
So this can be done to make your study a truly sociological one.
Thank you so much, sir.
Ma'am, I have one question. I'm directly, I don't know whom to ask, but any one of you can answer. Like what, in short, what will be the connection between classical sociology and global sociology? In short, like more
Ma'am,
one
that's
or
a
two
lovely
points.
question, but maybe also request you to introduce yourself, ma'am,
Ma'am, yeah,
and then
I am
take the
from
question.
Guwahati, Barnali Devi. My name is Barnali Devi. I am an ex-student of Cotton University. Yeah,
What was
thank you.
the question again?
Ma'am, in short, what is the connection between classical sociology and global sociology?
From
Okay, I'll attempt an answer. When we say global sociology, it is implicit that it is refers to the current globalization phase, the current phase of globalization, which has arisen under specific conditions, political and economic forces, and so on. So we are relating to this 40 years or 50 years of our past. Now, classical sociology was in the 19th century, was formulated broadly in the 19th century as a response to the changes that were happening in those societies, in Western society. So both are in that way contextual, whether it is classical or global sociology. It is primarily, I mean, that is the sociological contribution, is to contextualize everything. But the understanding or our faith in the classical theories is that though they are situated in a particular time and space, they have a certain breadth of understanding, and maybe they are able to see a larger picture across regions and across time. So now this is an assumption that can be discussed and debated, but the classical is I think it goes more than specific theories. It tries to contain a whole discipline within it. That is the status we give to classical theories.
All right, ma'am, I have got the answer.
Madam,
Thank
can I add one point? That is, you can read a book written by Rizal, and in that book he has uh, given definition of classical sociology. It is, yes, it is 19th century theory, and classical sociological theories have have a tremendous profound impact over the generations. So in this sense, it has a global impact. So these theories are itself global in its
you.
impact.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Right.
Thank you,
This
ma'am.
is
Thank you so
this
much.
is this is the definition given by Dizza. Right.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Valina, I believe, has raised her hand. Do you like to share something, Valina?
Uh, yes, my question is good
Can
evening,
you
everyone.
introduce yourself before we take
Good
into
evening,
question?
everyone. Myself, Belina Fernandez. I'm a TYBS Sociology majors from Sophia College. And my question is specifically for Dr. Ganesh. You mentioned about the creation of a Hindu society rather than an Indian society. Could you elaborate on this and explain why this distinction is so important for understanding social identity in India?
Not Hindu society and Indian society, Hindu sociology, and what was used at that time. The critique of Ghurye was that he was propounding a Hindu sociology than an Indian sociology. And that is because Ghurye, actually, also the colonial ethnographers and the colonial Indologists also, and that was in fact the source for Gourier and some others. They tried to understand Indian society. They were missionaries, they were administrators, and they were scholars. Three categories. Bernard Cohn has talked about the three categories of people who came from Europe, from different parts of Europe to India on various journeys. And when they were confronted by the confusing diversity and the astounding variety and very what they considered to be strange practices and so on, they somehow chose to understand Indian society through the elites of India at that time, who were the Brahmins, and through the Brahminical understanding was about a Brahmanical world, or a world or India seen through Brahmanical eyes and through the Sanskrit texts. So the colonial, let us say the curious colonial administrator or missionary or scholar understood, his initial understanding of India was through these indological categories, which actually did not really refer to what was happening on the ground over a period of time. Those were treatises that were kind of rule books or the book of norms, what things should be. You all know as sociologists what things should be and what things are. So they were, as society as was considered what it should be through a Brahmanical interpretation. And this interpretation was taken over by the colonials to understand what they could not understand. And in turn, people like Gurye, who were well versed in Sanskrit, they also gave more importance to this view rather than what came later. Gurye's student Srinivas, for example, started talking about the field view, that India was what existed on the ground and not what, or not only what was given in the books. And so that was the difference between the book view and the field view. So that is your Indian Hindu sociology. Then if it uses dharma shastras mainly to explain even the norms of Indian society, maybe not the reality, but even the norms, even that is a little exclusionary, because at least for couple of 1,000 years, there have been various kinds of people in India, and not all of them are Hindus. Quite a few of different kinds of people have been in India and lived in India, and are part of the Indian DNA. So what we need is an Indian sociology and not a Hindu sociology. This is the criticism. I think it is a justified criticism of Gurye, but Gurye was also much more than just that. He had many other things that he did. So in our hurry to criticize him for this particular serious failing, I think we should not be blind to the various other things that he has done and contributed.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the response.
Thank you. Anyone else?
So, Kanya, can you read out the question in the chat box? I think there's one.
Right, I think from Sanya, there has been one. That's the one that I can see. I wanted to know what reverse research is, as I have not looked at this topic before. So
Okay.
I think the question here is
Yeah. Should I take this?
yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So reverse research is just one way of putting it, a catchy way of putting it, because for the last 20 years or so, what is called postmodern ethnography has emerged as a critique of the traditional anthropological equation of a European or an American or a first world ethnographer going to far away places, what used to be either the colonies or a small remote places, and they conducted research. This was the traditional equation. The objects of the studies were the people of these countries, these cultures, which were not powerful and which were poor and not powerful. So the reverse research is when this equation between ethnographer of the first world country and the observed or the field that is situated in a third world or in the global south, whatever you call it, can that not be reversed? What happens when that is reversed? Is it possible? Was it possible in the past for an Indian sociologist or an anthropologist to go to England or to go to America and do a study on some part of America or England or Europe, this is what we call reversing the equation. Now, the thing is that it has not happened that frequently for various reasons. I mean, it requires a very strong academic framework and funding and various other kinds of infrastructure to be able to achieve this. And it has not happened in the past that far. But it is now happening. I happen to be in one of such projects. And when this location is changed, the way you look at things, immediately we talk a lot about social location these days. This reverse research brings to the fore our own. For me, when I went to the Netherlands, I had my own prejudices and biases about what elder care of the aging would be in the Netherlands. I came with my head full of certain stereotypes with which we are fed with. It's our cultural baggage. And the people whom I met, they had their own cultural baggage about what Indians are like. Why are Indians coming to study us here? Maybe they want to take our systems and apply it to the back. So the whole thing was very funny. The location changed the way we looked at each other. And I realized after a little while, after a couple of months, I realized that European Dutch society is pretty much caring about its elderly, not the way we Indians like to dismiss what the elder care in the US. It was very elaborate. But it was based on, it was the fundamental point there was the rights of the individual. So without compromising the right of the individual, elder care had to be done either through families or through friends or through social networks or through the welfare state and so on. So it was an example of reverse research. You can have many kinds of reverse research going on. Now, there are Indians who are in the diaspora. They go as Indians. Let us say an Indian student goes to the US for a sociology degree, and for her or his thesis, studies students in Princeton University. That becomes a kind of a reverse research. Basically, shaking up the locations of the observer and the observed. It's an important philosophical principle, right? So that is what reverse research is. Not to glorify reverse research, but if you have all kinds of research happening, then it is more likely that we will be able to come to a closer picture of what exists rather than have one particular kind of equation.
Ma'am, there is one more question for you. So, Kanya, may you please read it? Well,
So the
in the
question that
chat
has been
box.
asked is by yes, by Asmi, and I read, the rise of Brahmanical view and narrative based understanding of Indian systems. How can we develop new vocabulary that understands certain cultural systems without falling prey to Sanskritization of the limited access we have to language?
Can you please read the question
Sure,
again?
ma'am.
Yeah.
So the rise of Brahmanical view and narrative based understanding of Indian systems, how can we develop new vocabulary that understands certain cultural systems without falling prey to Sanskritization of the limited access that we have in language?
Yes. Okay. I mean, it is happening already. It is happening because, when I joined Bombay University, as I mentioned, the Dalit sociology was nowhere in the picture. Women's gender sociology was not really in the picture as a part of the discipline. It was not there. Women's movement was there, feminism was there, but in the last 20 years or so, 20-25 years, the vocabulary of our department itself has changed. Manisha is here. She will tell us, she can tell us more about this. So already it is happening. People who are from particular strata of society and feel empowered and to look at both their own societies and other societies, they have seen how important vocabulary is, and they have evolved. To some extent, they have evolved a vocabulary which will capture all these different realities. Now, some of these have got accepted in the mainstream and some have not. So I think it is an ongoing process, but the process has started. You cannot now write sociology in the way, or you cannot do a description of a field in the way we did it, let us say 40 years ago. That kind of description cannot be done now. You will have a different vocabulary and you will look at other things. So my answer to you is that it's already in process and needs to be taken further.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Asmi, I hope that helps. There has been another question that has been put in the chat box. What is the how to be connected? How to connect global sociology and the relationship between traditional society and modern society? So,
Dr. Patra
connecting
wants
global
to answer
sociology.
this.
Right. What is the question again?
I will just read that once again, sir. The question that has been asked by Ms. Anita Mahato is, I wanted to know how to be connecting global sociology and the relationship between traditional society and modern society.
Okay. Traditional, the first line of my answer would be the early sociologists, Western sociologists, they were preoccupied with analyzing how traditional Europe was modernizing, right? So this was the preoccupations of all classical sociologists. They were trying to understand different dimensions of modern society and differences between these traditions, these transitions. So this is one thing. Another thing is I have tried to point it out that sociology itself has a language. So if you want to analyze the traditional aspects of a society, the elements of tradition of a society in terms of those concepts, in terms of those theories, ideas, then you will be able to speak in global language. So this is the expression of local experiences through the language of sociology, and in this way you will, if it is done, if it is curated well, it will reach the global audience. So it is using the global categories. By global categories I am not meaning, I don't want to mean that is Western categories. There are certain sociologies, there are certain, very recently our Indian International Sociological Association President Geoffrey Players has written one article very recently, and he mentions that global sociology is different from universal sociology. Right? Global sociology means there will be contributions from India, there will be contributions from America, there will be contributions from, and a sociology for the world. There will be one sociology. I am not in favor of different sociologies, sociology of India, sociology of Afghanistan, sociology of Brazil. So this will be a kind of reductionism, right? So there should be one sociology for one world. And for that, we have to develop one language. But how would it be possible? Whether you are analyzing a very small thing of your village, or whether you are analyzing a global phenomenon, whatever be the case, you should use the terminologies, the concepts of sociology, and must be universal in nature. There are some standard terminologies, right? So in this way, the global sociology would be a contribution of regional sociology. And these regional sociologies should speak in terms of a universal language. It should be the language of sociology, right? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Patra. There has been one question that I've received. So, Jessica, would you like to ask your question, and then I'll take the ones that I.
Yes, good evening. I'm Jessica D'Souza, a TYBS sociology student from Sophia College. Thank you for this insightful session. My question is kind of personal, but compared to when you were students, how much more representation do you think Indian sociology and the global South perspectives have in the global discipline today? And what more can still be done to strengthen the representation?
Mm. Yeah, can I answer that? Can I
Yes.
take that?
Yes.
Yes, I think compared to the time when I was a student, now there are many more Indian names in positions of in world over, in academic positions and in policy positions as sociologists. And Indian sociology in India is also taken seriously in many places. Partly this has to do with, I think, the diaspora formation, the immigration, the very huge immigration of for education and of education, educated youngsters to go abroad for work and so on. This whole immigration has resulted in an Indian presence in education, in higher education, in corporate sector, in policy, in many regions. So I think this, and the back and forth relationship with Indian academics, all this I think has strengthened the position of India. I think Indians in higher education have an advantage over some of the other Asian countries in terms of their mastery over the language of English, and that takes them quite far in some of these areas. I think these are the two reasons. Apart from the fact that I think with all the discussions on indigenization and colonial categories, the current and the recent younger generation of Indians is much more confident about their own frameworks that they use, which are partly from the classical thinkers and the Western influence, but also very much from the ground, from what is happening from within India. And the fact that activism, NGO work, sociological academic work have all sort of they all come together quite often, and that is quite accepted. I think there is much more authenticity from the younger generation of Indian sociologists in what they say and how they articulate. I think this is also a factor.
Thank you so much for answering the question so honestly. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Jessica, and thank you, Dr. Ganesh. There are a few more questions that I have received, so I will just ask that.
We also have to keep in mind, Sukanya ma'am, that this is a time-bound
I
conference.
understand, yes, ma'am. So I think
thank you.
the last two questions that are there right now, and this one again has been to Dr. Ganesh. So I'll just read out what she has written to me. When reading about Dr. Ganesh, I came across her work on complication victimhood, where she talks about Sri Lankan Tamil diaspora and how diasporas are not just victims but actively shape identity and politics. And today we see hostility towards immigrants globally. So the question that she had asked is, what might be your insights which help us rethink these communities not as threats but as agents reshaping societies?
Yeah. Yes. The thing is that we often separate the victim and the agent as two opposed categories. But a person who is a victim in a certain circumstance can also exercise agency, whether benign or malignant, in both ways, in some other situation. So this is it's a very complicated idea. Now, I did work on the Tamils in Europe, in Germany, in Switzerland, in Italy, in Canada. And that time, that was about 10, 15 years ago, when the war, the civil war in Sri Lanka was over and the Tamils had been defeated, so to say. And they were also keen on that. The Tamils within Sri Lanka were keen on coming to a settlement and having some peace. But those who were in the diaspora, who had gone in the 80s, as a result of, I mean, they were a distress or a victim diaspora because they were hunted and hounded out of their country. And they came as refugees or asylum seekers. So they had built up a psychology of being victims, but it was not just psychology. They had suffered very greatly back at home and in the diaspora, in Europe especially, because with the liberal democracies and so on, they were able to express their feelings and they became quite aggressive and supported for example, the LTTE had its greatest support in the European Tamil diaspora. So this diaspora was able to make a success out of their refugee immigration. They got jobs. They did all kinds of jobs, but they made a life for themselves. They were successful, and then they became support for the war that was going on back in the home country without ever actually going to the home country. None of them wanted to go back. They were quite happy where they were, but they wanted to support the war. So this victimhood, and they were agents. They were quite obviously they were agents also, not just victims. So I just thought that these categories, even for women, in taking another example, in the early stage of the women's movement and women's studies also, the oppression of women, the victimhood of women, the discrimination against women was seen as a kind of an unrelieved people women who were helpless, who just had to suffer in silence and indignity. But then we started seeing that even within that, there have been resistances, there have been protests, and women in some ways, even though victimized to some extent, they have also managed to make a life for themselves under very difficult circumstances, exhibiting agency as well. So the point in my writing there is that victimhood and agency are not permanent features of any particular group, and it is possible to be simultaneously both, and also to overcome victimhood and become your own person, as many women have done as well.
Thank you so much, ma'am. The question was from Pavitra, so I hope Pavitra has heard that response from ma'am as well. The last question, I mean, I'm sure we can continue this discussion all day long, but like ma'am has said, this is a slightly time-bound thing, has been asked by Harshita Rajput in the chat box. The recent Gen Z protests that has been seen. So her question is, can the Gen Z protests that can be seen as a form of cultural globalization which challenges traditional power structures? And she has not addressed this to any particular speaker. So, to
maybe Dr. Patra can take this.
Sure, ma'am, no problem.
Because I'm protecting my voice.
Understood.
Held up so far, I have managed to speak. I have not been rendered speechless. So,
glad. Should I repeat the question, sir?
If you look at the situation of Nepal itself, Nepal has a repeated history of such kind of movements. So, starting from 1940s, second half of 1940s to till date, Nepal has witnessed these kind of movements several times. Now, your question is, yes, they are rather challenging the existing power structure, not traditional power structure, as you have mentioned, existing power structure, and there are contemporary issues related to it. So I am not very sure whether we will be able to call it a cultural globalization example or not, but these kind of movements may have a global, influence, impact. But the situation was right there. I have heard through media reports, the situation was right. Situation was very grave there. Rampant corruption, rampant discrimination, charges of nepotism. So all these factors were there, and Nepal itself had a very strong, tradition of these kind of movements. So this is one thing. I don't know whether the incidences of Bangladesh has impacted them or not. They themselves have this kind of tradition of movement. So this is my initial response. It is very difficult to say how far they have been influenced by international. I also cannot say this is a new movement, right? The forms of violence they have resorted to are different.
Thank you so
Thank
much. Yes, please, sir.
No, over.
All right. Thank you so much. There are a few more questions which have come in, so I'll just be taking a note of that and we will be sharing it with the speakers. But I would now like to please invite the chairperson, Dr. Shashi Mishra, to please give the closing remarks for today's session.
1 second. 1 second, huh? Something is...
Sure. No problem at all, ma'am.
Something is wrong with my this thing. Yeah.
Ma'am, we can see you and hear you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Is that audible?
Yes.
Okay. I have learnt a lot from both speakers. It is useful to all. Thank you, speakers, for enlightening us. Eminent speakers, Professor Kamala Ganesh and Professor Soumyajit Patra, shared their insight on globalizing sociology, regional realities, and global connection, add to our understanding of how sociology can adopt challenges and reimagine itself in a rapidly globalizing world. There is a need to consider regional context and experiences in global discussion by referring Indian scholars. The potential for global connections to shape local identities and practices. Professor Kamala Ganeshan, in her presentation, rightfully pointed out the importance of understanding globalization from a sociological perspective, indigenous and universalistic approach, aptly highlighted on debate on Indian joint family system, changes happening due to industrialization, urbanization, and migration. She also has referred endological model, kinship ideologies, family sentiments, indigenization, issues, regional voices, growing focus on marginalized section of society, interdisciplinary social issues, mutual exchange, collaboration, and opportunities available in globalized world. She has also given importance to globalization, how it is giving importance to exchange, mutual exchange, and collaborations. Professor Patra emphasized on plurality of knowledge, democracy, and individual rights are important. He gave the example of family, caste, village life, changing institution, but we must use the methodology, theories with our own understanding by referring Indian thinkers. Thank you, speakers. I'm really grateful to you. Our speakers pointed out how sociology is expanding beyond regional boundaries, everything engaging it is with the global issues, leading to no doubt on one hand, it leads to inequality, regional imbalances, also providing areas to marginalized voices and creating space for regional perspectives. In this way, sociology can become not just global but also inclusive and transformative. I would like to take this opportunity to thank our esteemed guest speakers for their contribution to this session. It was a thought provoking session that will challenge our assumptions and inspire new ideas, and at the same time, it will motivate us not only to give importance to globalization, but we must give importance to globalization, but at the same time, we must refer Indian thinkers and sociologists to study the situation. Conferences like this play a crucial role in bringing together diverse voices to reflect on sociology engagement with rapidly changing world. Thank you very much, organizer, for organizing this session. It was thought-provoking, and I'm really grateful to you to giving me opportunity to chair the session. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, madam. In spite of you have continued the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I please invite our head of department, Dr. Anaga Tendulkar Patil, to just share a few words as we reach the end of the session.
Sure. Thank you so much. I was the one who said that it's a time-bound conference, and I'm taking like 2 minutes out of this further. We are really grateful to everybody, those who have participated, the speakers, etc. Like I said yesterday, it is just a beginning. It is not the concluding remarks at all for Sophia College. This is as we conclude the 2-day session. We have the third day coming up in the month of November. And we have already put out the appeal for abstracts. I'm sure these 2 days we have churned out quite a lot. We have given a lot of thought to what is happening. And I guess what is important at this stage is to take away all of these. I can just highlight 3 important things. The first one is I was quite happy with the fact that we spoke about interdisciplinary approach, because sociology by itself can never reach the stages where, or we didn't be talking about just a global sociology, but how sociology and social sciences go at a global level is what our dream should be, ideally. Number one, we should also accept the complexity of sociology and its knowledge, because there's a tradition at UG level, we have seen as UG teachers that several times students come in saying that, oh, it's simple and therefore we can do it. So Sophia College is committed to making it complicated. We make it complex for our students, and we ensure that they understand and appreciate the different layers of it. The third and the final thing is, I really take it from Dr. Kamala Ganesh when she said, we have to think about where are these students going after doing their graduation or post-graduation. So that progression, which will take the knowledge about sociology on global horizons in order to then mix it up with the knowledge generation and creation, where we stake claim on it appropriately and rightfully, is the dream indeed of all the sociologists. Thanking again the day 1 speakers, it was wonderful. Thanking again the day 2 speakers, it was so thought-provoking, and the 2 chairs who joined in. Thank you so much on behalf of Sophia College, the department, and the students. And I'm telling you, it's indeed the beginning, because our lectures again tomorrow are going to be about what you said. Our students will not allow us to speak. So thank you so much to a very, very modest beginning. Thanks
you.
indeed.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
May
you,
I
madam.
just, one small request? If the attendees could please switch on their camera, we could very quickly take one photograph of all those who are present.
That's nice. That's very nice. All faces coming up.
Yes.
Ma'am, smiling faces. And ma'am, you said something yesterday, which, ma'am, Dr. Kamala Ganesh said, I won't be able to speak at all tomorrow, and therefore somebody should read the script. Look at Dr. Kamala Ganesh. We have all now started believing that good teachers will make good researchers. So please, to all the speakers, right now, hats off to Dr. Kamala Ganesh. Thank you so much, ma'am. And you
I'm
just
glad my voice held up. I was croaking yesterday, but today somehow I managed to speak. So
thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you to everyone that also
Thank
switched
you.
on.
Can I leave now?
Just the last vote of thanks. If you could just please say
It
for that.
won't take,
May I?
it will take half a minute.
Half
Come
a
on,
minute
please.
only.
Yeah.
May I please request Ms. Anjali Dandekar to take over? Thank you.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Hello, everyone. As we come to the close of this enriching and inspiring conference on behalf of Sociology Department and Sophia College, I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to everyone who made this conference a success. To our distinguished speakers, esteemed guests, faculty members, organizers, your dedication and insightful hard work has truly made a lasting impact here. We are also grateful to our RUSA committee for their unwavering support and all to the participants who brought this energy, curiosity, and meaningful dialogue to every session. Thank you for being the part of this journey as we look forward to continue such insightful conferences and conversations coming up in future. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Just one small note, I think the feedback forms have been shared in the chat box, those of you who are present. But once again, thank you very, very much. And with the permission of all those present, I think we can call it a day. Thank you
Yes,
once
of
again.
course we
Thank
can.
you.
So
Thank
we
you.
announce that the conference is concluded. Thank you
Thank you
so
very
much. Thank you, Dr. Ganesh, and thank you, Dr. Patra. Participants, thank you, Dr. Mishra. Thank you so much. Participants, please ensure that you fill in the feedback form and then leave. Thank you so much.
Sure.
थैंक यू मैम.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
कल का कार्यक्रम मैं मिस कर गया था.
Okay.
और
I
कल
hope you enjoyed it today,
मैं
Mr. Sonu Kumar.
हाँ जी. और एक्चुअल में कल मुझे लिंक विभूति मैम भेजी थी, मगर किसी न्यूज कवरेज में बिहार में से हूँ जुड़ा हुआ और विधानसभा चुनाव को लेकर के यहाँ सरगर्मी चढ़ी हुई है, तो इधर लगातार कवरेज में था. और मैम बोल रही थी बेटा जुड़ जाना, तो मैं बोला कि मैम मैं फील्ड में हूँ, यहाँ कवरेज प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस चल रहा है. मैं जुड़ने का प्रयास करने का हर पल कोशिश किया, मगर मैं जुड़ नहीं पाया. मगर आप लोग का ये कार्यक्रम आज मैं जो पूर्णतः सुना, जो मैंने सीखा, जो जाना, वो मेरे लिए काफी बहुत सारे व्यूज मिल जाते हैं. और सबसे बड़ी खासियत ये अच्छी लगती है कि जो पूरे कोरोना काल ने हम लोग को कितना अच्छा प्लेटफॉर्म दिया है. जो वासुदेव कुटुंबकम की जो हम लोग बात किया करते थे, ये आभासी मंच हम लोग को प्रोवाइड कर रहा है, तो ये बहुत बड़ी बात है. और मैं मानता हूँ कि मुझे कोरोना काल में आप जैसे लोग मिले, जिनके साथ मुझे कहा जाता है ना, गुरु और शिष्य, सभी गुरु हैं, सभी शिष्य हैं. और हम लोग तो टीचर्स डे मना लेते हैं, मगर मैं समझता हूँ कि सभी गुरु हैं और सभी शिष्य हैं. सीखने का अवसर हमेशा मिलते रहता है. और मुझे सबसे ज्यादा खुशी इस बात का होता है कि मैं जर्नलिज्म डिपार्टमेंट से हूँ, और जर्नलिज्म डिपार्टमेंट एक ऐसा डिपार्टमेंट है जहाँ हर पल हर चीजों को सीखने का अवसर मिलता है. भले ही लाख चुनौतियां हो, मगर हमेशा सिविलाइजेशन के बीच में काम करने का अवसर मिलता है, बशर्ते आप सकारात्मक दिशा में सोच कर चलेंगे. बहुत अच्छा लगा ये कार्यक्रम में जुड़कर. और अपने आप को, सबसे बड़ा चीज है पत्रकारिता में अपने आप को सोशल रखना अपने, और ये विषय भी था हमसे रिलेटेड था, तो मैं समझता हूँ कि अपने आप को ये जो आपने रखा विषय बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण था, और मुझे जुड़कर